My girlfriend looked at me and said, "I can replace you tomorrow." I stared at her for a second and asked, "You really believe that?" She shrugged. "Of course." I nodded. "Okay." 3 months later, she was sitting across from me asking why I had changed. The truth was simple. I hadn't changed. I had just stopped arguing with someone who never respected me. When I met Qley, she wasn't like that. At least, not from what I could see. She was confident, outgoing, and had a way of making everyone around her feel comfortable. I worked as a project manager for a construction company. My life was pretty straightforward: work during the week, gym a few nights, family on weekends. Qley brought excitement into my routine. For the first year, things were good. We moved into an apartment together after 18 months. Started talking about the future. Talked about getting engaged someday. Everything felt normal. Looking back, the warning signs were already there. I just kept explaining them away. The first red flag was how much attention mattered to her. Whenever we went out, Qley needed to be noticed. Not in an unhealthy way at first, but gradually it became obvious. Every compliment energized her. Every lack of attention irritated her. If someone else became the center of attention, her mood changed almost immediately. I noticed it, ignored it. The second red flag came from a best friend, Vanessa. Vanessa believed every relationship problem could be solved by convincing women they deserved better. It didn't matter what happened. Her answer was always the same: know your worth. At first, that sounded harmless. Then I realized she used it as an excuse for selfish behavior. If Qley canceled plans, I was supposed to understand. If I canceled plans because of work, I wasn't prioritizing the relationship. The standards were never equal. One night, Qley came home annoyed after talking to Vanessa. Apparently, one of Vanessa's friends had just started dating a guy who owned multiple businesses. For the next hour, Qley compared him to everyone. His car, his income, his lifestyle. Eventually, she looked at me and laughed. Maybe I should have aimed higher. She smiled when she said it, like it was a joke. I laughed too, but something about it bothered me. Later, she told me I was taking things too seriously. So I let it go. That was mistake number one. The third red flag appeared whenever we disagreed. At the beginning of the relationship, we could actually talk through problems. Over time, that changed. Any disagreement became evidence that I wasn't supportive enough. If I questioned a decision, I was negative. If I expressed concern, I was insecure. If I wanted a discussion, I was making things difficult. The actual issue rarely got addressed. The conversation always became about my reaction. I remember one specific weekend. We had planned to visit my parents. An hour before we were supposed to leave, Qley decided she'd rather attend a brunch with friends. No discussion. No compromise. Just a decision. When I reminded her about our plans, she rolled her eyes. Your parents will survive. I ended up going alone. She acted like I was unreasonable for being disappointed. Again, I let it go. Mistake number two. The next few months followed the same pattern. More dismissive comments. More comparisons. More situations where my feelings, somehow, became less important than hers. The strange thing was that she wasn't cruel all the time. Most of the time, she was perfectly pleasant. That's what made everything confusing. Every time I started questioning the relationship, she'd become affectionate again. Just enough to make me doubt myself. Then Vanessa started showing up more often. And the tone changed. Qley became increasingly obsessed with the idea that she had options. She talked about it constantly. Not specific men. Just options. Attention. Choices. Opportunity. At first, I thought she was trying to build confidence. Eventually, I realized she was building superiority. One evening, we were having dinner when she mentioned a guy from her office who had been flirting with her. I didn't react much. People flirt. It happens. Then she mentioned another one. And another. Eventually, I asked, "Why are you telling me all this?" She shrugged. Just saying. Something felt off. Like she wanted a reaction. Like she wanted me to feel threatened. I didn't give her one. That seemed to irritate her. A few weeks later, we attended a birthday party with several of her friends. At one point, the conversation turned toward relationships. Someone joked about breakups. That's when Qley laughed and said, "I'd be fine. I'd have another boyfriend in a week." Everyone laughed. I smiled politely. Inside, something shifted. Because she wasn't joking anymore. She genuinely believed it. On the drive home, I finally said something. "Did you really mean that?" She looked out the window. "Mean what?" "The boyfriend in a week comment." She laughed. "You're still thinking about that?" "Yes." That's when she turned toward me. Annoyed. Dismissive. Completely confident. And she said the sentence that changed everything. "I can replace you tomorrow if I wanted to." The car went silent. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she added, "Don't be so sensitive." And for the first time in our entire relationship, I started wondering whether the problem wasn't what she said. It was the fact that she believed it. After Qley said it, I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand an apology. I just drove the rest of the way home in silence. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. That was almost worse, because it told me she didn't think she'd crossed a line. To her, it was a normal thing to say. To me, it wasn't. For the next few weeks, I paid closer attention. Not because I was trying to catch her doing something wrong, because I was trying to understand whether that comment had been a one-time mistake or something deeper. The answer came quickly. A few days later, we were getting ready for dinner with friends when Qley stood in front of the mirror trying on different outfits. Eventually, she smiled and said, "Honestly, if we ever broke up, dating would be easy for me." I looked up from my phone. "Why would you say that?" She shrugged. "Because it's true." I noticed something. Every version of the conversation ended the same way. She wasn't trying to build confidence. She was reminding me that she believed she had leverage. At first, the comments happened occasionally. Then they became more frequent. Whenever we disagreed, she'd casually mention how many options she had. Whenever I expressed frustration, she'd remind me that plenty of guys found her attractive. The strange thing was that she expected completely different behavior from me. One afternoon, an old female friend messaged me asking about a professional opportunity. Qley immediately wanted to know who she was, how we knew each other, why she was messaging me. I answered every question. Then I asked, "Do you see the double standard here?" She frowned. What double standard? That was becoming a pattern too. Rules applied to me, not to her. The more I tried to discuss it, the more defensive she became. One night I sat down with her and tried to have an honest conversation. No accusations, no anger, just honesty. I told her that constantly talking about replacing me was damaging the relationship. She immediately laughed, actually laughed. Then she said, "You're proving my point." "What point?" "That you're insecure." There it was. The gaslighting. Instead of addressing what she said, she attacked my reaction to it. The issue wasn't her behavior. The issue was supposedly my inability to handle it. That conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. Nothing got resolved. A week later, Vanessa invited us to a group dinner. Halfway through the evening, the conversation turned toward relationships again. Vanessa started talking about how women should never settle. Then she looked directly at Qley. You could literally find someone else tomorrow. The entire table laughed. Qley smiled. Then she pointed at me. See, that's what I keep telling him. Everyone treated it like a joke. I didn't, because for the first time, I realized something. This wasn't confidence. It was entitlement. Qley genuinely believed I was lucky to be with her. And if I ever questioned anything, I could be replaced. That belief explained almost everything. The dismissive comments, the comparisons, the double standards, the complete lack of accountability. The issue wasn't one sentence. The issue was a mindset. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Over the next month, things got worse. Whenever we disagreed, Qley became more aggressive. Not loud, confident, like someone who believed they held all the power. One evening, I told her I felt like she didn't respect me. She immediately rolled her eyes. Here we go again. I'm serious. No, you're dramatic. I remember sitting there feeling exhausted. Not angry. Exhausted. Because every conversation followed the same formula. Problem. Dismissal. Blame. Repeat. Nothing ever changed. The relationship started feeling one-sided. I was carrying every difficult discussion. I was making every effort to improve communication. Meanwhile, Qley acted like the relationship would survive regardless of how she behaved. Then came the moment that made everything clear. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to attend my cousin's engagement party. 2 hours before the event, Qley cancelled. Not because she was sick. Not because of an emergency. Vanessa had invited her to a last-minute rooftop event, and she decided that sounded more fun. I reminded her that my family was expecting us. She shrugged. Go without me. I stared at her. Seriously, you're making this a bigger deal than it is. Something inside me started shutting down. Not emotionally, mentally, because I realized I wasn't dealing with occasional selfishness anymore. I was dealing with someone who genuinely believed her wants mattered more than everyone else's. That night, my cousin asked where Qley was. I made an excuse. On the drive home, I stopped making excuses for her in my own head. For the first time, I admitted something I'd been avoiding. The problem wasn't Vanessa. The problem wasn't social media. The problem wasn't attention from other men. The problem was that Qley believed she was the prize and I was replaceable. Every conflict flowed from that belief. Every disrespectful comment. Every manipulation. Every double standard. Everything. Once I understood that, my perspective changed. I stopped trying to convince her to see my side. Because people don't listen when they think they're above the conversation. Then came the final discussion. The one that ended everything. A few days later, I calmly told her we needed to talk. She immediately looked annoyed. What now? I took a breath. I don't think this relationship is healthy anymore. Her expression hardened. Because I hurt your feelings. No. Then what? Because you don't respect me. She laughed again. That same laugh. The one I'd heard 100 times before. Then she crossed her arms. If you're going to keep acting like this, maybe we shouldn't be together. The room became quiet. She looked completely confident. Completely certain. Like she already knew how the conversation would end. For years, I probably would have argued. Tried harder. Explained more. This time, I simply nodded. You're right. The confidence disappeared for a split second. What? You're right. I stood up. Maybe we shouldn't. For the first time in the entire relationship, Qley looked confused. And I think that's because she had never considered the possibility that I would actually stop arguing. She thought the conversation was ending. What she didn't realize was that everything was about to change. After that conversation, Qley looked surprisingly relaxed. That should have bothered me. Instead, it confirmed everything I'd finally realized. She wasn't worried because she didn't believe I was serious. For years, every conflict had ended the same way. I stayed. I explained. I compromised. I adjusted. From her perspective, this was just another argument. Another disagreement I'd eventually get over. For the first few days, she acted almost cheerful. She spent more time with friends, posted more on social media, went out more often. If anything, she seemed relieved. The relationship tension was gone, at least from her point of view. Meanwhile, I stopped chasing, not to make a statement, not as a strategy, because I was exhausted. I stopped initiating conversations, stopped trying to fix things, stopped asking where we stood. For the first time, I let her actions speak for themselves. A week later, she noticed. One evening, she came home and asked, "Are you okay?" "Yeah. You've been quiet." I nodded. "So have you." She stared at me for a second, almost like she was waiting for something. An argument, a complaint, anything. It never came. That seemed to bother her more than any disagreement ever had. The next clue appeared 2 weeks later. I accepted a position overseeing a major project in another city. It wasn't some fantasy promotion. It was simply a good opportunity. Better pay, more responsibility, a fresh environment, the kind of opportunity I'd usually discuss with Qley immediately. This time I didn't. Not because I was hiding it, because there wasn't much left to discuss. When I finally told her, she looked shocked. "Wait, you're leaving." "Looks that way." "For how long?" "At least a year." The silence that followed felt different. For the first time, she wasn't completely comfortable. Not panicked, just unsettled. Like reality had introduced itself. That was karma wave one. Not revenge. Consequences. The person she'd always assumed would stay was building a life that no longer revolved around her. A few days later, she started reaching out more. Random texts, random questions, small conversations. At first, I thought she was just being polite. Then I noticed something. She was checking whether I was still emotionally available, whether she still had the same influence. The answer wasn't what she expected. I was respectful, but I wasn't chasing. That difference mattered. Then came the proof. One of our mutual friends invited me to dinner. During the conversation, Qley's name came up. Apparently, she had been telling people that our problems started because I became distant. At first, that annoyed me. Then the friend said something interesting. Most people didn't buy it. I looked up. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "People noticed how she talked to you." That caught me off guard, because for years I'd wondered whether I was imagining things, whether I was being overly sensitive. Apparently, I wasn't. Other people had noticed too. The comments, the comparisons, the constant reminders that she had options. That conversation changed something. Not because it exposed Qley, because it confirmed reality. The problem had been visible all along. I just kept minimizing it. Then came the witness. About a month later, Qley's older sister called me. We'd always gotten along. Near the end of the conversation, she sighed and said, "You know she's struggling, right?" I didn't respond. Her sister continued. "She thought you'd come back." There it was. The belief. The same belief that had fueled every argument, every dismissive comment, every power play. She genuinely believed I needed her more than she needed me. Her sister said something else that stayed with me. She never thought there was a limit. That sentence explained everything. Not just the relationship, Everything. If someone believes there are no consequences, boundaries eventually disappear. Then came the confirmation. About 6 weeks later, Qley called. I almost didn't answer. Eventually, I did. The conversation started awkwardly. Small talk. Questions about work. Questions about the new city. Then there was a long silence. Finally, she asked, "Can I ask you something?" Sure. When did you stop loving me? I sat quietly for a moment. Then I answered honestly. I didn't. Another silence. I stopped believing you respected me. The conversation went quiet. For the first time, there was no defensiveness, no sarcasm, no jokes, just silence. Then she said something I'd never heard before. I think I took you for granted. Not an excuse, not a justification, an admission. The strange thing was that hearing it didn't make me happy. It just made me sad, because it arrived months too late. That was karma wave 2. The social support she'd always relied on had weakened. Friends weren't validating her anymore. Even her sister was challenging her. The narrative she'd built about being able to replace anyone wasn't holding up. Then came karma wave 3. The emotional consequence. A few months later, I learned through mutual friends that Qley had gone on dates. Nothing serious. Nothing lasting. And according to her own words, none of it felt meaningful. That's when she discovered something attention had hidden from her for years. Getting attention is easy. Building trust isn't. Being admired is easy. Being respected isn't. Replacing a person is easy. Replacing a relationship isn't. That realization hit harder than any argument ever could. As for me, life became quieter. The new project challenged me. I met new people, built new routines, spent more time with family. Most importantly, I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's opinion. That lesson changed everything. Looking back, I don't hate Qley, and I don't think she was evil. The version of her I met in the beginning was real. The problem was that somewhere along the way, confidence turned into entitlement. Attention turned into arrogance. And appreciation turned into assumption. The relationship didn't end because she said she could replace me tomorrow. It ended because she spent years acting like she could. That sentence just revealed the belief underneath it. The belief that I'd always stay. That I'd always tolerate it. That I'd always keep arguing for a place in my own relationship. The moment I stopped doing that, everything changed. Not because I won. Not because she lost. But because reality finally proved something neither of us had fully understood before. Respect isn't optional. And once it's gone, love usually isn't far behind.